As tertiary institutions are about to reopen, they are reopening as we speak, we turn our focus to the wider scope of higher education in South Africa. Knowledge and skills in digital and technological occupations are in demand, and students are being encouraged to choose careers that will equip them with the tools needed to thrive in this digital age. So let's explore those alternatives this morning. Educational expert Thobo Khathola joins us in studio. Thobo, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming into studio.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
What an important discussion, right? In the context of, you know, where we find ourselves in higher education, the challenges with NSFAS funding, students want to get that university qualification in matric, and they want to go and study further insofar as tertiary education is concerned. But there is now a sense that students themselves, and maybe parents as well, need to broaden the idea of what should happen after matric, right?
No, absolutely. So we've seen that with our education system, it's only able to absorb a certain amount of students into higher learning. So whether universities, your Big 5 or your Big 10 universities, your FET colleges, but there's a huge number of students that are still sitting at home without university admission. And, you know, it brings things like, you know, heightened crime. It brings things of being idle, you know, just being home doing nothing. And even some students get suicidal. I just read a report where students actually take their lives because they feel so frustrated. The friends that they did matric with are all in universities, they are not. And you find that it's just some small technicalities that they can find some university of, you know, either online or other alternatives to higher education.
So let's talk about those alternatives this morning. Let's talk for a moment about those matric students who are in a position where they did not do as well as expected. And actually they didn't get a university qualification.
I'll give you some case studies. I've got 2 students that wanted to study a certain course, accounting, and they did well for the course accounting, but they got maybe D's and E's for English. And you find that with the university admission requirements, they need to score a certain grade for English. So they were not, unfortunately, able to be admitted to the university. And they started exploring options online where they could study even at top universities, but, you know, doing it from home. And, you know, with COVID has really brought to us alternatives. You know, we started working from home. We started doing schooling from home. So it was just a plug and play. And as we speak right now, they are already attending lessons virtually for the accounting course that they desire. Of course, not the degree that they want. Some go for the AAT, some go for the CIMA, the ACCA, and it obviously goes at the pace that the student is able to, you know, comprehend the syllabus. It goes at the student's pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, part of this discussion around alternatives to university, we must bring in, and perhaps this is also the pressure that students experience from their parents and their families, that it's not the end of the road. What happens in matric. It's just about thinking outside of the box, right? There are other stepping stones to getting to where you want to be.
And some which include rewriting. So at Lion Tutoring where I work, we have students that are rewriting. Supplementing, you know, you don't necessarily have to, you know, do the whole grade. You find the student didn't do well in 2 or 3 subjects, that they can go reset those subjects, better their grade, and then get the university admission. So I'm not here to say university is bad, you know, don't go to university, but I'm just saying if you didn't really do well and you find yourself sitting at home, you know, engage us so that we help you to rewrite or supplement for that extra 2 or 3 subjects that can get you admission in the next round, or even explore studying abroad. I mean, in other universities in the West, you know, they have the admission time in September, so that is their summer period. So, you know, there are so many alternatives that we can explore.
Let's talk a bit more about Lion Tutoring and how you help students and families bridge these gaps, because these are gaps, right, in our education system. There should be more alternatives for students. How does digital and tech form part of bridging those gaps?
So we explore that with our students at Lion Tutoring. So we have consultants come to your house like myself, and then we just we start by assessing how the student performed, and see what the student wants to study in university, or the other skills that the student has. I know I have a student who does photography and design, and they're absolutely amazing at the work that they do, the soft skills, but they're not being able to get absorbed by your universities that offer that kind of course, and they're able to just go online and be able to do a 6 months or a year course that they're able to now work for platforms like Upwork, like Fiverr. They'll do a 6 months course, and then they are there as one of the freelancers, and they get used, or their services get used by people all over the world, not just in South Africa.
Wow.
So those are some of the things that we help the students with. But even rewriting, if students don't have information of where to rewrite, I have a student who also just transferred from the Matric IEB curriculum into IGCSE and A-levels. So that transition, because they want to study abroad, and the admission requirements is that they have A-levels. So it was a good meeting to have with the parent and the student to say, you now need to transit your syllabus from the IEB to the A-levels. Yeah. So that is some of the plans that we have. It's like going to the gym. Right. You have somebody come and look at you and say, this is the exercises that you need to do for you to get this desired outcome. It's the same thing that we do with our students.
Look, and like going to the gym, I'm sure that it's prohibitive for many people because of the cost, right? There aren't many families, given the socioeconomic position of our country and of the bulk of the people in our country, that will be able to afford this kind. And I almost feel like that is part of the problem and part of why students don't know what the alternatives are. Yeah. They don't really have access to that information. Yeah. But I see that a big part of Lion Tutoring is building a sense of community and students learning from each other as well. Yeah. Effectively, what I'm asking you is, how do we make sure that all of the information that you have here, the ideas about alternatives, about studying abroad, about doing online courses, how do we make sure that that information gets where it needs to go to those pupils?
So we serve customers from the higher end who can afford consultants like ourselves to come to their home. But even those less privileged, we've worked with so many projects. We've had F&B Foundation come through and say, we're going to deploy you to this community, to this school, so that you're able to help students. So at the time it was the students, the grade 7s were finishing their primary school. So they engaged us to say, go in, help these students, less privileged community, and we're able to increase the pass mark by 10% within 3 months, which is quite high. Yes, and we've worked with government agencies here in South Africa and back from in Botswana, where we're just deployed into a school. We're given the mandate, or we're given the target, and we're able to help the students. So there are so many CSR projects that we've worked with, Childline, SOS, that would meet them halfway. But we obviously need sponsors, to come through and say, we're going to sponsor you to do this. Then we can be able to meet them halfway.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the grade 7s that you were involved with, and I suppose that's a good way of segueing to my next question. These kinds of conversations with families and between parents and guardians and their children, they can't just begin in matric, right?
Yeah.
These are conversations we need to be having with our children. And when do you propose that we start talking about,
as soon as possible,
the pathways that are open to you as you go into your high school career?
Yeah, I've got my daughter as young as she is, but, as a parent, we need to be able to spot our children's abilities naturally. We also run some psychometric tests, which are able to help students to be able to identify their natural areas of competence. And, as soon as grade 5, grade 4, if you see that your student... Yes, most students actually do show us what they want to become at those early stages. Of course, sometimes it's not directed. One day I want to be a pilot, then I want to be an astronaut, then I want to be a doctor.
Yeah, week by week you want to be something else.
Something else. Yeah. But, as parents, it's up to us to be able to identify that passion, expose our kids. At Lion Tutor, what we do is we also have parents come to us and say, we're able to take one of 2 of your students to our workplaces. So we've had pilots take some of the students, so that they go and see, on-the-job experience. And when they come back, some would be like, I want to do this. Some will be like, I've seen what a pilot does and I'm not interested. So we have that sense of community where even the parents would, say, I'll take 2 or 3 kids to my office.
The message I'm getting from you is really around the sense of community. And this kind of advice, this kind of fostering of talent for children, it doesn't have to come from a company. Yes, Lion Tutoring, of course, does incredible work, but it doesn't have to come from a company, right? These are things that we can foster in our own communities and in our own circles.
Absolutely. And, it doesn't really have to have a company, just your friends, church mates. That's how our company started. It was just, at church, somebody said, my child is struggling with mathematics. And, some unemployed youth would come to you and say, I can come to your house 2 or 3 days a week, help your child with mathematics. And both sides of the bargain actually win, because the unemployed youth is getting employment, they have something to do, and the student doesn't have to, see their grades, sinking in deep. And the parent also has a sense of peace, because once they leave work, they don't need to rush home and help students, with their academics.
Incredibly important conversation. Thobo Khathola is an educational specialist with Lion Tutoring, as we continue this focus on higher education and alternatives to university. Thobo, it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming into the studio.